Costly mistake I've seen some companies do, they purchase a piling rig and then they go all out with purchasing the entire kits that come with that machine, the accessories and all the tools that they don't really need. Costly mistake that I've seen companies do, they go for brands, for manufacturers that don't really have experience in building drilling rigs, piling rigs. For instance, some huge companies that I've seen, they have negotiating is a very important part of the game. So what I mean by negotiating, guys, is I mean talking openly and having that relationship and having that discussion with the dealer that you're purchasing from to ask, are there more cost-effective ways that I can actually purchase this model and this machine? Whether it's the logistic costs. I'm Mike the Broda and this is TerraQUIP Talk. After years of providing drilling equipment solutions, I know that a project success hinges on reliable, high-quality rigs that meet your needs. So if you're ready to make smarter equipment decisions and build stronger foundations, let's get started. Hi guys, thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about costly mistakes that people make, that companies make when purchasing a drilling and piling rigs. You really want to stick around for this episode because this episode could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars on to the purchase of your next piling rig. So let's dig into it. Now, I am going to be starting with a disclaimer. These are just my ideas and there are costly mistakes that I've seen people and companies make over time, but they're ideas that work in my opinion, but for some people they might not work. So please consider what's convenient and what's working for you when purchasing a machine. So point number one that I want to make, or idea number one that I want to discuss about, is don't buy a machine. This is a mistake that people make. Don't buy a drilling and piling rig that's too old. And what do I mean by too old? I mean a machine that's over 10,000-12,000 hours in terms of working hours, or a machine that's over 12-15 years old when it comes to actual years. We've made a study over the years and we've noticed there's two major steps when it comes to the working hours of a machine and how much money is being spent on maintenance. The first step is at about 6,000 hours, I'd say 5.5 to 6,000 hours, where the graph between maintenance cost and the graph starts to curve quite significantly, meaning that the maintenance cost goes up significantly. And as I said, it's a step at 5,000 hours or 6,000 hours, and another one which is even higher, and the cost there goes up tremendously and is not really worth keeping the machine, and that is at about 9,000 to 10,000 hours. So be really careful if you're purchasing a machine not to be, I'd say the sweet spot is at about 2,000 to 3,000 hours. That's the absolutely perfect spot to purchase a machine. But then of course there are cases where, depending on the project or depending on what kind of money you have, or maybe there's a machine that you're just looking to help you to start getting into the drilling and piling industry, then maybe you need to consider something that's 10,000 hours. And again, that's only what works for you. But what we noticed is, again, these two steps when it comes to maintenance versus maintenance cost versus working hours. Now, there are situations where someone's going to offer you like a killer deal. And I feel like from what we noticed, the machines that come with so many hours, they will have a killer price. But then what do you do with that price? You need to consider adding on very expensive parts such as the engine or the hydraulic pump or the winches or the slew motor, things that can be extremely costly, and they can cost as much as or even more than the entire rig just to replace, just to fix. Costly mistake number two that I've seen some companies do, they purchase a piling rig and then they go all out with purchasing the entire kits that come with that machine, the accessories and all the tools that they don't really need. They go for a machine that they purchase as a package with all kinds of kits and accessories, and they notice after that they actually have no use for many years. Unless they do, and unless there is an exception there. If the dealer offers you an absolutely exceptional price as a package deal with a heavy discount, which we have offered with some IMT machines in the past, because let's say they just have a CFA kit there that's been there for the last 6 months and they haven't sold, or a low headroom kit that maybe has been there for the last 1 year, and then they offer you a really good price, then it's well worth it, absolutely. But for example, we noticed with tools, they only really need 450 and 600 diameter for the projects that they go for. But they go on and they purchase the 750, the 900 and the meter 50 diameter tools, and then they go to purchase all of these like cleaning buckets and drilling buckets and coring buckets and augers, different kinds of augers, and you're like, why would you do that for? You haven't used them in the last 3 years. Like, you should sell them, or better off not buy them from the beginning. Costly mistake number 3 that I've seen companies do over time, they go for drilling machine for brands, for manufacturers that don't really have experience in building drilling rigs, piling rigs. For instance, some huge companies that I've seen, they have built excavators for years or cranes, and then they have the financial resources to go into building piling rigs all of a sudden, and they just start doing it. And some companies, they go on to purchase that machine because they know it from, they have an excavator, that brand, and they were happy with it. It's not really ideal, because companies that build drilling rigs for many, many years, they had time to go through a trial and error process. They don't just build a prototype. Yeah, sure, maybe the other companies, they just build it. They may have just copied the machine and they said like, oh, we're copying a successful model. But that's not necessarily the case that it's going to be a successful model, because as they say, the devil is in the detail. So it's super important, in my opinion, to check what sort of history the brand that you want to buy from has in that game that you're in, and that should be across all industries, not only that. Just to give you an example, our main brands that we represent in Australia and New Zealand, IMT and Marini, they both have 50 years experience when it comes to building these machines. And actually IMT has more than 50 years experience, but the actual IMT register name has 50 years. In fact, Giulio Accoroni, which is the original founder, he's no longer alive now, of IMT Machines, started building, he was the first Italian manufacturer to build a piling rig, a drilling and piling rig, back in 1950s. So 20 years later only he started the brand IMT, but he's been building machines for longer than that. So there you go, that's huge history, which we're really, really proud of. We have had extremely good success with IMT, and that's mainly because of their experience. Okay, costly mistake number 4 that I've seen people do, and this is a bit of a touchy one, I know, it's about negotiation. Now, I know that some of the points that I'm discussing here that actually might come in conflict with what I do and the things that I sell, and then the machines that I sell and the processes that I employ to sell machines. But nevertheless, I got nothing to hide, and I want people to have the best advice whether they're purchasing from me or they're purchasing from one of my competitors. I know that that's what I would do. All of these points here, I would consider them if I would go to purchase a piling rig. And I have considered them every time I purchased a piling rig for TerraQUIP to have it as a rental. So this point is about negotiating. Negotiating is a very important part of the game, and it's really difficult in our industry to have just a shelf price. So it's not because we're dishonest, it's not because we're trying to fiddle with the price or anything like that. It's simply because we have all of these factors that prevent us from having what they call a shelf fixed price. Every single day, our prices when we sell piling rigs, drilling and piling rigs, can be influenced by one of the following factors that have absolutely nothing to do with us as a dealer. So factor number 1 is the exchange rate. Because you see, we buy everything in euro, because we buy out of Europe most of the time. Majority of the manufacturers are in Europe, but we sell in Australia, so we need to sell in Australian dollars. So then the exchange rate fluctuations is what prevents us from actually having the correct price. Then of course is the replacement cost. Maybe there is a machine that we've had in stock for the last 6 months. During those 6 months, maybe our supplier, our manufacturer changed the price, changed the manufacturing cost because of whatever component, whatever engine or pump has gone up in price. So then we need to adjust to have the correct replacement cost for our stock. Not only, but we purchased at that cost, so he's going to give us this certain margin. We don't know that. So what I mean by negotiating, guys, is talking openly and having that relationship and having that discussion with the dealer that you're purchasing from to ask, are there more cost-effective ways that I can actually purchase this model and this machine? Whether is the logistic costs, that's involved with it. Maybe we can hunt for a better exchange rate. Maybe the manufacturer has some excess stock that we can purchase from because we have a lot of time up our sleeve. So if you have the time to plan the purchase, you can negotiate and you can ask for the dealer to help you with ways around to make the purchase of the machine a little bit more cost effective. And of course, there'll be situations where the dealer can't do anything. There's been situations where I turned down a sale and I said, I'm sorry, I just can't help you. This is the price that we need to sell at. Otherwise, it's a no-go. You're more than welcome to go to one of our competitors. And it's really sad when that happens, of course, because we won the sale. Maybe that particular client wants to purchase our machine, but it's just not possible because of so many factors that we have to factor in. Okay, we're up to number 5, and this is very, very connected to the previous point. If we spoke in the previous point about not negotiating and not asking the dealer for a more cost-effective way to get that machine, they go that we've had some examples of companies that went too much on the other side. They negotiate too much. And I've seen some pretty bad cases along the years where potential buyers even play dealers and sellers against each other. So what do I mean by this? They will come and ask me for a quote, and say like, give me your absolute best price. And then they'll take that best price, me thinking that they have my best interest at heart, that they want to work with me, but they only want to take that offer from me to show it to a competitor of mine and say, I could get this from Mike, unless you're dropping your price to this, because his machine is pretty much the same, and it could backfire. It's not really the right way of doing things. Just quickly, need reliable drilling equipment for your next project? At TerraQUIP Drilling Equipment, we offer tailored solutions with top-tier support to meet your project needs. Contact us using the links in the show notes to find the perfect equipment for your drilling project. Now back to the episode. Another costly mistake that I've seen people do over the years is leaving the purchasing of the piling rig or the drilling rig to the very last moment. And this is a huge problem in our industry, because when things are about to go, they want it yesterday. And it's extremely hard to do it, right? Because we're dealing with such heavy machinery, such a expensive machinery, logistic costs are super huge. And I have a funny story about this. I remember a few years ago, I went to one of my friends who's a tool supplier. He's a manufacturer of tools, and we actually have a good relationship. I went to visit him, and at the entrance, he had this big poster with this guy laughing hysterically. And under him, it said something like, "You need it by what day?" It happens a lot. That's what prompted him to actually put that there, because people actually don't give you much time in this industry. Because what happens to them, and I understand them 100%, what happens to them is their client comes to them and says, okay, we've got the approvals, the council approvals, we have the finance, we have all the green lights. We need you to start as soon as possible because we're late already. We need you to start yesterday. And then, of course, our clients come to us and they say, like, I need a drilling rig. I need a drilling tool for such and such day. It's Tuesday today. By Friday, I want to be on site. I want to be drilling on Saturday. And you're like, the machine is in Italy. It's on the water right now. I can't make it go faster. I can't just physically jump on the ship and start pedaling, or whatever you do on the ship to make it go faster. So yeah, not leaving enough time for the procurement of a piling and leaving it to the last moment is definitely a costly mistake. Because another thing that I've noticed happen, and it actually happened to us as well, it was in our detriment too. It was a few months ago. I mean, it happened many times, but the last one, it happened a few months ago. We had a client that said, we need this machine, we need this 60-ton machine, we want to buy it from you, we prefer the IMT brand, but when can you deliver it? And I said, probably in a couple of months, because it's just leaving Italy right now. It needs 2 months on the water. I can't tell you anything else that's better, more positive, because I'll be lying to you. This is the reality. And the client said, unfortunately, I have to go with your competitor, although it's not really the rig that I want to buy. It's more expensive. It's not really suitable for that particular soil that we need to drill, but unfortunately, we have to go with them. And it was really sad for us. We had to say no to a sale, but that's just what happens when you leave it to the very last moment. You might end up with a piling rig brand or model or size that it's not really suitable for your job, is not really what you want. Having plenty of time up your sleeve can allow you to make the best financial decision, the best decision in terms of choosing the model, the brand, everything really. So what do we do to combat that? What do we do to help and facilitate our clients with facilitate them with faster equipment solution? What we do is we invest in stock, and we take massive risk by bringing machines from Italy of different classes and different sizes and different configurations with different accessories and different kits. For this, we can counteract the traditional 2 months on the water that it takes to bring a machine from Europe, especially from Italy, to Australia. And another thing that we've done as well in the past, we choose a more premium shipping line that travels directly from Europe to Australia without stopping or without unloading all their goods in Singapore, for example, where they do a transshipment. We try to avoid Singapore altogether. And by doing this, we're saving about a month and a half in shipping time. in order to facilitate people with better delivery times. When it comes to bringing machines in stock, it's not essential to bring just the machine, but also the right kit and the right accessory for that machine. Because it happened many times that we had the machine in stock, in Kilibar version, let's say, but we didn't have the CFA kit or we didn't have the low headroom kit. And it happened to us to lose sales because of not having the right configuration of the rig. A CFA kit usually comes transported in a container. It's a little bit quicker than a piling rig, than an actual machine which gets transported on RoRo basis. RoRo means roll on, roll off. But yeah, CFA kits, they get transported by container, but still they take up to a month to arrive, and a month sometimes is way too late to deliver a machine. That's why we try to bring CFA kits in stock, Kilibars, spare Kilibars, low headroom kits, computers as well for surveying all the pile parameters, and of course the spare parts as well necessary to maintain the machines. Having the right machine in stock can help not only the supplier sell quicker, but also the client with the purchase and with the project. And I actually have a really funny and I guess useful story. It's the most significant story that happened to us. It was during COVID, when there was a lot of uncertainty in the market, and we're pretty much the only supplier at that time that had machines in stock ready to go through that certain period. And it was this company that was looking for a 60-ton machine, and we had the exact same configuration, same class machine that they needed for their particular, because one of their machines broke down on an important job site where they had a lot of hard rock to drill. And not only they had hard rock, but they also had to re-drill some of the piles that they drilled in a wrong way like a year before. So they realized, IMT is the only machine that we need, and they actually have it in stock. That's what actually mattered and opened the door for us to that company to sell and start a relationship with them. So that's an example of a very successful story there that we're very proud of, and it helped us so much. So this is a perfect example how us having the right stock and the right configuration and the right machine help the client achieve their targets and complete their projects. Okay, another custom mistake that I've seen people make is just because they have other brands, they're afraid to buy from another manufacturer because of too many brands, or because they don't want to mix and match the brands. And they have a few reasons which I totally understand, in mind when doing this. They say, but all my tools are specially made for a certain machine. But considering that most of the machines work with pretty much the same tools, I mean, depending on the class of the machine, the class of the piling rig, the Kelly stab, which is the connection between the Kelly bar and the drilling tool, they come with standard sizes. So that's not really a good reason. It's a very false reason not to purchase a certain brand because you already have the tools for a different brand. The tools are interchangeable. Now, another reason that they come up with is they say that all my guys are used to a certain brand and they know the controls of the piling rig, and they know the configuration of the machine, and it's really hard now. It would send us backwards if we buy a different brand. Again, the controls on a piling rig are pretty much 90% the same across the industry. I'm not going to go into details here, but you got tracks, two main levers, and then a few controls on the mast for the movement of the mast. Essentially, they all very similar. Of course, there's the more expensive brands, they have a lot of automation, they have a lot of gadgets and bells and whistles and whatnot. But mainly, we're talking about some principal movements that are pretty much the same across rigs. And then another reason they say, the mechanics or the maintenance people, they're very used to a certain brand, so we can't buy your brand because it's being serviced in a different way. Again, it's not. And what we do at TerraQUIP is part of the commissioning process. We also, if the client wants us, during the first service, the first 250 hours, which is the major service on any piling rig, we actually do it with their people and we teach them what to do. We even have step-by-step instruction on how to maintain the machine, not only on the daily maintenance, but also on the regular maintenance, which is every 250 hours. Last but not least, guys, I've spoken about this in previous episodes. What happens is a costly mistake could be the fact that they don't take the time to test the machine and to sit in the machine and visit the factory that they're going to purchase for, or the manufacturer. I cannot stress how important this is for a company purchasing the piling rig. And it happened to us so many times throughout the years when we told the client, it's okay if you purchase from another manufacturer. We don't care. The only thing that we care about is you coming and testing first our machine and then going to test the other machine from the competitor to see what you think. And then if you decide the other one is better, I'll be the first one to say, congratulations, I'm really glad for you. But what happened was 9 out of 10 times, they tested our machine, they loved it, and they thanked me after that and said, like, thank you so much. I actually have been writing from a few clients this, saying, it was such a good idea. Thank you for pushing us to go to the factory. Thank you for pushing us to go onto the job site and sit in one of these machines. It was the right decision to make. And we've made the more informed decision now because we had time in the actual machine sitting there. Now, I know that's not always easy to arrange, especially if the drilling machine that you're looking to purchase needs to be ordered from overseas, but the buyer can arrange for a trip overseas or can arrange for one of their people to go and sit in the machine, not only to see the machine, but also to learn more about the drilling process, because chances are that manufacturer is going to take you to different job sites where they have those machines working already. You can talk to those people there, you can meet new people, you can develop a relationship with the manufacturer more than just with the local people that you have in your area. So I know it's not easy, but it's definitely well worth it. All the clients that we pushed to go overseas and we took with us overseas to our manufacturer, they were very thankful and they said it was time well spent, money well spent. Now, considering that the majority of the companies or people that have shown our IMT and marine machines, they went for them. Of course, this is a reason that this point benefits TerraQUIP. But again, even if you purchase from someone else, it doesn't bother us. We're more than welcome for you to come and sit in our machines, test our machines, and then go and test our competitor's machine, see what you think and what you feel. And sometimes even if you have the same brand of machine, same model, same everything, but just manufactured at different times, make sure you still sit in it, because what can happen is that the manufacturer can change the engine supplier, the pump supplier, or the major components, which you may not like the feel of the machine because of changing one component. That could be an important point as well. Okay, guys, that's pretty much wraps it up. Thank you very much for watching this episode. I hope you find the information that we spoke about here relatable, and I hope you find it beneficial. And I really hope I am gonna hear those questions from you when you're coming to purchase your next drilling rig. Till then, see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to TerraQUIP Talk. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support us is by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube so you never miss an episode. You can also find out more from me on all social media platforms. The links are below. Until then, remember, if it's not turning, you're not earning.